broadcasters. Welcome to episode 262 of the StreamYard Live Town Hall. My name's Geige. I'm here with Dan, of course. Dan, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's been a good week. See lots of folks in the comments commenting on how cold it is in their area. Yeah, Dan and I are in Dallas, and right now it's I think like 14 degrees Fahrenheit, like 10 below 0 Celsius, which is, I didn't even know it got that cold here. Pretty crazy. Yeah, for anyone new here, Dan and I are the founders of StreamYard. We do these town halls every single Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific, and we do them for a few reasons. One is to stay in tune with all of you, go through the same flow that you all do with your own shows and productions. Two is to answer any of your questions. That's why we're calling it Ask StreamYard. So if there's anything you'd like us to touch on tonight, feel free to leave it in the chat, and we'll do our best to get to as many as we possibly can. And three, I always mention the three pillars of StreamYard, which are ease of use, stability, and professional streams. So if you're about those three things, StreamYard is the tool for you. See folks tuning in from all over the world tonight. It's great to have all of you here with your respective temperatures. Cool to see.
Cold everywhere, yeah, except Australia.
Yeah, not so much in Australia. Awesome. Before I forget, we have some awesome shows on StreamYard. We have YouTube channel reviews with Dee and Daniel the second Saturday of every month. Really fun show if you're looking to grow on YouTube. Both of them are pros when it comes to all things video, and it's fun because they'll pull out specific channels and give insights into how should this person be thinking about things like thumbnails or their audience, which oftentimes you can apply to your own thinking and your own channel. We have Enhance Your Live Stream the last Tuesday of the month with Nick Nimmin, who also is a pro when it comes to all things streaming, all things video. So check that one out with your specific live streaming questions. And then one thing we're doing at the start of these so that we get to know a little bit more about you and you get to know a little bit more about us is a fun fact. And the fun fact for tonight was which social platform, I have a typo in there, which social platform do you spend the most time on? Cool. So not necessarily stream to, but like as a user, which one do you find yourself
as
on
a consumer?
Most?
Yeah. For me, it's definitely YouTube. By a pretty big margin. I definitely spend some time on various platforms, but YouTube by far. How about you?
Yes, I'm definitely the same. Simply just because there's so much information on there, I find that I'm often on there finding videos. There are some new ones though. I have been spending more time lately on. More time lately is more like over the last couple of years on Twitter/X, which I wasn't as active on before, and that's been interesting.
Cool.
All right. See lots of questions in the chat. Let's get to some of these. Saeed, I see your comment there on pricing concerns in countries with sort of like a lower GDP. Definitely noted. It's something that we've talked about internally, and we'll hopefully be able to address in some way in the future. Bob Place says, question, can you allow a delete all option in the library to clear space? Do you want to take that one, Dan?
Yeah, good question. And just to confirm, I assume you mean the library on the dashboard and not the brand tab or something. We do have the option to select multiple, so you can select a whole bunch of them at once, but you can't literally select everything. If you're not familiar with the select multiple option, though, that should hopefully help a little bit. So maybe let me know if you are familiar with that, and if you'd still want the option to literally delete everything. We do also have an option if you go into the team settings. So this is just on the dashboard at the bottom. There's a team settings section, and you can basically turn on a setting where it'll delete recorded past like your oldest recording when you create a new one. So anytime you go live, if you're over the storage limit, it would delete the oldest one. I wouldn't recommend that for everyone because in a lot of cases you want to keep very specific recordings, but could be an option if you don't care as much about your recordings and you're just kind of annoyed with having to delete stuff all the time.
Awesome. All right, let's see what else we had here. See tons of questions here. We'll do a few more. I want to make sure we have time for some of the updates for tonight, but we'll do a couple more and then get into the updates. Zapata is asking if anyone's familiar with the EOS utility update. I don't know off the top of my head, Zapata, but I'm sure support often deals with folks asking similar types of questions. If you go to streamer.com/contact, we do have 24/7 live chat there where I'm sure the team would be happy to help you out.
Yep.
Earl says, I have two shows. It would be helpful to have folders for the overlays. I would be curious, Nurse, if you're familiar with the brand folders. So like you do have the option to have folders for like your entire show, which maybe you're already familiar with, but that is one way that folks sort of use as a higher level type of folder for overlays and everything else. But yeah, I appreciate the feedback on overlays specifically, but I would be curious if you were aware of the brand folders.
Yep. Yeah, it's basically right at the top of the brand section. You can create not a folder, but a whole new brand that has a bunch of different settings, which usually works for this. It's basically made for the exact use case you're talking about, where you have multiple types of shows. But yeah, if you want more granularity, maybe, and you just want folders for overlays or something, maybe let us know. But I find the brand option usually works great for exactly what you're doing.
Absolutely. American English with Brent says, any discussion on adding the ability to live stream to the Chinese social media platform? I think I'll embarrass myself. I try to pronounce it. Zhao Shang Shu. It's probably wrong, but I'm guessing it's something like that. I'm not actually familiar with that platform, Brent, but I'll definitely try to learn more and take a look at it. It would be a new one for me. But yeah, any large platform that folks are interested in us integrating with, it's definitely something we're open to. I don't know if they have an API or anything about it really, so I need to learn more.
Yep.
LD says, how do you guys do the background like that? Yeah, good question, LD. So one feature we did add recently was the ability to upload video backgrounds. So basically all you have to do is create some sort of looping video and you're able to upload that as a background. Our design team made this particular one. I'm not sure which. I think they used something like Adobe Premiere or something like that, right, Dan?
Yeah, and to be clear as well, like this is one of our example backgrounds, we call it. So if you're on StreamYard in the brand tab and you just scroll down to the background section and click to add a background, and this is on all plans, you can only upload your own on any of the paid plans, but even on the free plan, there's a whole list of example backgrounds that are pretty cool. And this one we're using is literally one of the examples. So you can actually use our exact same background. And there's maybe, I think there's about 12 videos or so and about 12 images. And you can just pick from those if you don't want to bother designing your own. But obviously, if you want a custom one that's really on brand for you, then you might want to actually design one yourself. Just make sure it loops well, because that's kind of the tricky part with backgrounds. It is just going to continually loop in the background. So you want to make sure that basically the last frame lines up with the first frame of the video. So it just kind of smooth loop and it's not this jarring jump back to the start.
Yep. All right, let's see what else we had here. Another question from Brent says, any chance you can add the option for more than 50 banners for each folder? Actually ran out this week. Yeah, it's definitely something we're open to, Brent. It wasn't necessarily something where it's like we had to have some kind of limit, and we just figured that was one that was unlikely for folks to run into. But yeah, we're open to that.
Yep.
Albert says, can we apply a background for each of the participants? So if you mean a virtual sorry, go ahead, Dan.
I was going to say sort of.
Yeah, if you mean a virtual background, like someone using the virtual green screen feature, or even just like the regular green screen feature, if they have an actual green screen, you can, in the sense that each one of those people can opt to, even if they don't have a StreamYard account, right, then they can actually upload their own background as a guest on StreamYard. Yep. So you can't do it yourself, but you could share an asset with them and ask them to upload it. But yeah, let me know if there's other thoughts on it, Albert, or different ways in which you'd like it to work.
Yep.
All right. Awesome, Eddie. But yeah, we're big fans of Nick as well. He's awesome.
Yeah, Nick's great.
All right, let's go ahead and get into the feature announcement, and I'll get back to some of the questions we had here. So the brand new one we had for tonight was on-air privacy settings for registration. So I guess first thing, if you're not familiar with what on-air is actually StreamYard's own solution to basically doing webinars or your own private live stream. So say, for example, if you wanted to do a stream to your own website, on-air would be a great solution for that. You can actually just embed it on your own website, even alongside a chat. And if you want to, you can also do it at the same time as YouTube, right? Like maybe you want to go to YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook and your own website at the same time. But of course, there's also the option to just do sort of a webinar format where it's entirely private. And the cool thing about this new feature for on-air is if you are someone who is using on-air, say maybe in an internal setting or for a company or something like that, what this setting does is it allows you to restrict which domains are able to register for your webinar. So say, for example, which we actually do this, we use on-air for our own all hands for StreamYard as a business. And you could, for example, say like, hey, I only want people who have the email at StreamYard.com to be able to register for this particular all hands or webinar. So super excited about it. Would be curious how many of you are actually using on-air for an internal type use case where this is a helpful change. And then Dan, were you going to anything else to add there? Or are you going to show a little bit about how it worked?
Yeah, I can show it really quickly. It's pretty straightforward, but I think it's still cool to show. So this is, for any of you that have created an on-air webinar before on StreamYard, there's a whole settings page where you can customize the experience for viewers. and basically just tweak a bunch of different stuff. So we've got, and this is stuff we've had for a while. So branding, where you can upload your own logo and really customize the landing page, a bunch of settings for the watch experience for viewers as well. And then the new setting is in this registration tab, where it used to just be essentially public or unlisted is maybe a better word for it, where there's a link, you can share it out, anyone can register. But like Geige mentioned, the new option is now that you can restrict that to domains. So the classic easy example is if you're streaming inside of your company and you only want people at your company to be able to watch it, you could just add the domain there, and then only people with that email address or that domain of an email address can actually register for it. And then we will be adding other stuff into here pretty soon. Basically gives you more options for limiting who can actually register for your webinar. So stay tuned for that as well.
Awesome. So yeah, if folks, if any of you have any questions, definitely let us know. I definitely plan to continue making improvements across the board when it comes to on air. So even if you have just general feedback outside of the privacy changes, definitely let us know. Hey, Tangled Stitch, great to have you watching tonight. Hope your travels are going well. Let's do a couple more questions, and we'll get into some of the other feature announcements. Let's see here. Practical IT with Jeremy says, can you add an option for protected recordings in the library so they aren't accidentally deleted? Yeah, that's an interesting question, Jeremy. It's something that we did briefly chat about in the past, but you want to take that one, Dan?
Yeah, unfortunately, obviously, it's not something we have now, but I think it's a cool idea, and I definitely get the need for it. If, say, you embedded it on your homepage or something on your website, you want to make sure, hey, I really don't want to accidentally delete it myself or someone on my team to delete it. So, yeah, I think that's kind of cool. No plans for it at the moment, but I do think it's a cool idea. So it's definitely a possibility. I would also be curious, like always, if anyone else in the chat, that's something you'd want as well.
Yep. Awesome. You're just glad that is helpful. I do think if you weren't aware of it, I think it'll be a perfect option for you to have this sort of folders for your overlays.
Yep.
Daniel says, any chance in the future to have transitions like fading for overlays in the future? So one thing I've alluded to a few times in the past now, Daniel, is in the same sort of spirit that we launched custom layouts of like trying to keep things really, really simple. But for folks who did want to go deeper and really have control over the look and feel of the layouts, we added the custom layouts option. We want to go a step further on that and sort of have keep things, again, very, very simple. But for folks who do want to have more control over sort of the flow and animations and timing of the stream, have some options there. So we are working on something that not quite ready to share yet, but I think you'll be really excited about in the future. All right. Let's see. Mikey says, has any thought been given to exporting and importing custom layouts? That is a cool idea, Mikey. I mean, I think it's something that we briefly talked about is like, hey, wouldn't it be cool potentially if someone made a really nice layout that they could share it with another person? So beyond that, not too much. It is definitely something that we're open to if there are folks in the community that are wanting to have an easier time talking about or like sharing and importing custom layouts. So we'd be curious if that is something that other folks are interested in, but haven't put too much thought beyond the initial stuff that I just mentioned.
Yeah, and if you're interested in it, for anyone in the chat, I'd be curious if are you interested in maybe getting layouts from other people or potentially publishing them yourself?
Yep. All right, let's see here. David says, how can you stream on Instagram? Yeah, that's a good question. That was actually one of the reminder sort of announcements that's pretty new. So Instagram Live formerly was very closed off. There was not very many people that had access to stream. But fortunately now, if you do have a professional Instagram account, which is very easy to get. If you don't have a professional Instagram account, you can change your account to a professional account. And we have a doc that sort of walks through how to do that. You can now stream there, which is really exciting. It doesn't have the same sort of integrations available that YouTube and Facebook have. We're optimistic in the future that Instagram will sort of make some of those things available so that StreamYard can integrate in a smoother way with the platform. But so we've done the best with what we have access to so far to sort of make it as easy as possible to stream there. But the easiest way is probably to just go on StreamYard and follow the steps on there. But the gist of it is that on StreamYard, if you click Instagram as a destination, it'll walk you through step by step, getting the credentials from Instagram, putting them on StreamYard, and ultimately streaming there. There are various gotchas to be aware of because of how sort of new Instagram is in terms of allowing third parties to stream there. But it does let you know there, like making sure you mute the tab and whatnot that you have open for Instagram.
Yep. Yeah, we try to walk you through the steps as good as possible when you connect it on StreamYard.
I guess on that same note, that was another one I wanted to briefly mention again, because we did mention it last week, but it is a fairly new feature. So I'd be curious how it's going for folks. So, and part of the reason for launching it was, of course, the fact that Instagram Live is now more readily available to essentially everyone, and that is Portrait Studio. So if you missed it last week, StreamYard actually launched the ability to, instead of streaming 16:9, to also be able to, instead of going 16:9, to go vertically instead. And you basically have access to most features that you'd have in the standard studio. So you have the ability to, have overlays and videos and assets and switch between layouts. The only real things that are missing, but we do plan on adding eventually, Dan, is the custom layouts. And was there anything else? Is it mostly
custom layouts and local recording just on launch we don't have, but
right.
Both of them are going to be coming quite soon.
So those are in the works. And I actually do have a video here walking through it from Dana. So I'll go ahead it's a pretty quick video. I'll go ahead and play that as that gives a more full overview of it. Anything to add, or should I just go ahead and run the video?
No. Yeah, I'd run it.
All right, here we go.
Portrait mode is here. You can now stream or record in vertical format, also known as portrait mode or 9:16. We recommend it if Instagram is the main platform that you care about. To enable portrait mode, head to the studio, click settings, click general, then click to enable portrait mode. Portrait mode turns the studio output into a vertical video. You may want to upload portrait graphics and videos or brand assets that are 9:16 format. If so, consider creating a new brand to keep these assets separate. There are a few unique things about streaming in portrait mode. In portrait mode, your comments, banners, and tickers will show up at the top instead of the bottom. This is so that they won't be covered up if your audience is watching you from an app, like the Instagram app. We optimized all the layouts for portrait streaming. You can even screen share on portrait mode. It looks best if you resize your browser to be a vertical format, like this. Try portrait mode today. Available on all plans. Happy streaming!
Awesome. So if you've had a chance to try it out, or you have any feedback or questions on the Portrait Studio, definitely let us know. Eager to hear how it's gone for all of you.
And one thing to point out as well, it works for streaming, and it also works for recording. So it's a pretty good use case if you want to stream to Instagram, like we mentioned. If that's the main platform you care about streaming to, Portrait will work great. And then everything else will also go to Portrait. So Facebook, YouTube, etc. will all be streamed in Portrait if you choose portrait mode. And actually all those platforms support portrait pretty well. It's not necessarily optimal for the other platforms, but it does work. And then if you care more about YouTube or something, you can just stream in landscape, and then your Instagram one will just have like this nice blur effect. But the other option is to record. So if you care more about shorts, or you're making different types of content, just recorded content, Portrait Studio is really cool for that as well.
Yep, definitely. All right, let's see what else we had here. I do realize I didn't actually talk about I see a couple of questions about the pricing for On Air originally. So On Air starts, one here from Amit, On Air starts on the professional StreamYard plan. So if you have the Pro plan or any higher plan, you will have access to On Air. And the big change from one plan to the next is basically the number of viewers you have on Pro versus the higher tier plans. But anyone that has access to On Air, so Pro plans and up, will have access to the privacy editions, and essentially all the other changes that we've recently made with On Air. So stuff like branding, the Zapier integration, all of that comes with just having access to On Air.
Yep.
David says, how about Twitch? Can you use StreamYard for that? Yep, we have a direct integration with Twitch, so the comments come in and everything. Absolutely.
Yeah, you can, if you're on StreamYard, you can go to the destinations page and see all the platforms we connect with, but it's basically all the major platforms: YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, X, now Instagram as well.
Yep. Let's see here. Chantel says, would it be possible for someone moderating On Air could not accidentally add comments to screen when they're trying to mod them? Yeah, that's a good question. I think that in some ways also applies to live streaming as well, where if you're trying to click maybe an option to, like, the three dots to do something with comment. We have tried to make it where a pretty big section that's near those three dots isn't clickable, but I definitely understand the concern of like accidentally clicking something that you're attempting to moderate in instead. So something for us to think about.
Yeah, I have a bunch of thoughts for how like little tweaks we might be able to make to improve that a bit for everyone, not just a moderator.
Awesome. Tim, I see your question there about live selling. For folks that are doing live selling, I mean, it's popular to like upload various like assets and videos of like the product they're trying to sell and talk about it. But I'd be curious any specific features that would be useful to you beyond that. Let us know. All right, let's see what else we had. Awesome, Tangled Stitch. Glad that it's working well for you on the go. That is one thing we don't talk about too much. Like one of the cool aspects of StreamYard is because it does leverage the cloud. That you can set up everything once on one computer, but if you do happen to be traveling on a different system, you do have sort of everything saved for you, and it should work without having to like, oh no, I don't have the same computer. It's like, no, that's all right. You have the same assets and everything.
Yeah, a lot of people too, if they're traveling or something, often just have their phones and can just quickly go live from their phone. And it's a different experience, but you can totally use StreamYard from your phone as well. And like you said, have all the assets, the banners, everything's just there.
Awesome, Chris. Happy to hear that you're excited about it. All right, let's see here. What else was there? Yeah, absolutely, Brent. That's definitely one thing that we try to always keep in mind is when it comes to sort of the 3 pillars. That's essentially the first one, ease of use, right? So we want to always make sure that as we're developing stuff to take into account, making sure that we keep it as simple as possible for folks where that's a priority.
Yeah, I know like some people will ask once in a while in the town hall. It's a really good question, which is, we're obviously adding a ton of different stuff over time. We're trying to add as much value as we possibly can, but then how do we make sure we keep it simple? And that's always top of mind for us. Is every single thing we add, we want to make sure, it's not just adding features, but it's also making sure that the product still stays extremely simple, even as we add a bunch of stuff. So yeah, that's critical for us.
Absolutely. All right, let's do maybe one more here before talking about some of the other recent updates. I see another question for you, David, about how to bring on guests. You're trying to make it super simple. So if you go ahead and create a StreamYard broadcast, you have a few different ways to access it. One is the invite button that's within the studio. We'll give you a link, and you can just share that link with your guests. It's the same URL that you see at the top of your browser. I would, if you want to get a feel for StreamYard, I think the easiest thing is just jump in there, do either a record only or an unlisted broadcast, and just get a sense and try out all those features, and you'll get a pretty good sense of how everything works.
Yep. Yeah, the closest you can do if you want to simulate a stream is to do a YouTube unlisted stream, or like Geige said, a recording is also good, obviously, if you want to use it for recording.
Absolutely. My Island Jamaica says, how does the webinar differ from live streams versus Zoom? So I guess starting with live streams, it is a similar experience to the live stream. So in the same way that like on YouTube, you have the comments coming in, you can show them on screen. Like it is a similar experience in that sense. It's also similar in that it's designed to be super stable and scalable. So you'll be able to reach a large audience without having maybe some of the experiences you might have had in the past with older webinar products where you can kind of feel as more people are joining that things are maybe becoming less stable. It is designed in a similar way to YouTube Live. The difference from the live stream is obviously you have access to registration, so the ability to collect things like emails the way that you would do for a webinar and be able to promote it to sort of a private audience. You have the ability to have like your own landing page and embed it on your own website. So those types of things. When it comes to, so we're going to say something then?
Nope. Go ahead.
Oh, my mistake. When it comes to Zoom specifically, I think the biggest difference is probably the branding option. So if you really care about making the webinar really look and feel and represent your exact brand, you're just going to have a lot more options than something like Zoom, right? Where no matter what, someone watching on Zoom is going to have to download the Zoom app. They're going to be interacting a lot with the Zoom interface. It's going to feel like Zoom. Whereas on StreamYard, you have the option to really create an experience that feels like you, right? They can watch on your own website. They don't necessarily have to download anything if they don't want to. I think branding is probably the big difference there.
Yeah, it is just a different feel. Like for anyone who's been on Zoom, I mean, it has like the Zoom feel to it, which feels a little clunky. Like Geige said, you have to download it. It all kind of comes back to branding. Like with On Air, you should be able to make it's just a better experience in our opinion for viewers. And as Geige mentioned, you can embed it on your website, so it's not just. You can just share the StreamYard link if you want, and that's kind of the easiest way to do it. But if you really want to go and fully brand it, you can put it on your website. You can just kind of build it right into the website, use our registration, or kind of have your own. Just like a really nice experience for viewers.
Absolutely. We have a question from Fred here. I've been using StreamYard for a couple of years for my sports talk show. Only issue is that when multiple people talk at the same time, the volume gets cut off. It's as if only one person can talk without it being faded out / cut off. Yeah, absolutely, Fred. I think folks often refer to that thing as like audio ducking, where someone has to be louder than the other. So the easiest way, if you want to get rid of that, would be StreamYard in the audio settings has an option to disable some of the audio processing features. Which if you have, we only recommend doing it if you have headphones and control over your audio setup. But if you're doing something like a sports talk show where you have a regular co-host and you understand their setup and you're all wearing headphones and you have a good audio setup where you don't have background noise going or anything like that, that would be the easiest way to do it, is just disable the audio processing. And then you should not really have that audio ducking effect. The Peter G show says, why when repeating a live stream as a rerun, do you lose the ability to download the audio separately? You're only allowed the video and audio together. So I assume, Peter, you mean the like the pre-recorded streaming option?
I think he's referring to, say, let me know if I'm wrong, but you do a recording, you have the video and audio files that you can download, and then when you do a pre-recorded stream, if you click on that one, you can only download the video. That is something we could probably fix right now. It's primarily just because you can get it from the original. Like the original thing you recorded. And if you upload something, we just don't create an audio file for it. So that would be why if you uploaded a video, we don't have that one.
Cool. Should we go ahead and start queuing up the giveaway for tonight, Dan, while I do a couple more questions?
Yes, we shall.
All right, let's see here. Awesome, Joe Mark. Nice to have you tuning in tonight. Quetza says, are there any plans for displaying text right in front of you, emulating a teleprompter so you don't look down or to the side to read it from another window? That's definitely something that's been coming up more frequently. Quetza, I think, as maybe for sort of the podcasting use case on StreamYard. So it's definitely something that we're open to. Right now, the closest thing or the biggest alternative that folks will use is simply something like having Google Docs open in front of them, or maybe on a different monitor that's or on the same monitor even that's just like above the sort of StreamYard window. But it's something that we're open to. All right, so giveaway for tonight. I think many folks are familiar. To be eligible, all you have to do is type in hashtag the yard, and tonight we'll give away a StreamYard sweater and a StreamYard duck. And if you're ever interested in running a giveaway like this yourself, we actually made this tool available at StreamYard.com/giveaway, and there's a video walking through how it works. It's pretty easy to use. You can do exactly like how Dan and I are doing it, where you screen share. You can even choose your own keyword, but we'll give you maybe 10 or 15 seconds or so to get in your hashtag the yards. Michael says, the biggest difference between the webinar versions that you can put comments on screen and have them recorded back and watch them, that's the best feature ever. Yeah, that's a good point, Michael, that I didn't think about, is showing some of the branding options and showing the comments on screen is definitely a different one.
Yeah, the show just feels different is kind of how I would phrase it. Like if you watch an on-air webinar, do an on-air webinar, it just has a different feel than a Zoom stream. And a lot of that is branding. A lot of it is showing comments on screen.
William says, when will we be able to stream to Kick? So you can stream to Kick if you're using the custom RTMP option, but if you mean like a direct integration with Kick, William, it's something we're open to. I don't have a date or anything for it, but it is something that we're open to. All right, has the number of entries calmed down, Dan?
It's pretty stable. I think we're good to do it. And sorry, what are we giving away?
We're giving away a StreamYard sweater and a StreamYard duck.
Cool. Good luck, everyone.
Mark, thanks so much for hanging out with us tonight, and congrats on your brand new StreamYard duck and your StreamYard sweater. If you could send an email to contact@streamyard.com, the team can work with you, get your size for the sweater and your address and everything shipped over to you.
Cool. Congrats.
All right. And with that, this was episode 262 of the StreamYard Live Town Hall. It's always a pleasure getting the chance to hang out with you guys and get your feedback on StreamYard. We really, really appreciate it. And we'll see you next week at the same time, Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific.
Perfect. See you next week, everyone.